Hello and welcome to this review video for the International Racing League. Today we're going to be reviewing the British Grand Prix in the GT Sport League, which occurred around the Brands Hatch full circuit, and we'll be reviewing a very wet Japanese Grand Prix around Suzuka. So we'll start with the GT Sport League as usual, and Matthew Alder became the first driver in IRL history to take pole position in both the F1 race and the GT Sport race on the same weekend. He led away from pole position with Chris Ryan in second position and Jeremy Pope in third. Both drivers behind really needed a victory to get their driver championship hopes back on track, with Philip Blum and Luke Smith first and second in the championship, both not racing. And on lap 10, Jeremy Pope, who was charging through the field anyway, made a crucial move on the inside of Matthew Alder going into turn 1, pushed him wide a little bit. Alder did well to keep the car on the road after contact, but he still had a chance of victory if it wasn't for this strategic error where Alder forgot to refuel and had to cruise around another lap in mix 6. So he dropped down to 6th position, and if anything was lucky to even finish 6th, because on the last lap, when luckily for him the drivers behind had been lapped and already finished, he got a puncture in the rear left, had absolutely no control whatsoever, lost it pretty much at every right-hand corner. So he was very lucky to finish P6 in the end, Matthew Alder, which was very disappointing considering he was on for a potential victory on his debut after a glitch in Nordschleife ensured he was unable to start. But it was Jeremy Pope who won the race. Doc Holliday in second, Chris Ryan falling to third late on, with Rambo, the reserve for Nestle, finishing fourth ahead of Apollo, Matthew Alder, Louis Quinlan finishing in seventh. So in the Drivers' Championship, Luke Smith still has the lead by 8 points over Philip Blum, with Chris Ryan, Jeremy Pope and Doc Holliday. Those are the 5 championship hopefuls for the GT Sport League. Lewis Bish, then Kamikaze Fox, Killer KD, Cameron West Edwards, XX Rambo, Fly Super 2, and then in the second half of the table, Johnny Carrington, they're on 14 points ahead of Apollo on 10, Matthew Alder on 8, Louis Quinlan on 6, Ben Carrington on 3, Tyler R on 2, and Sondre Sorhal, the only other driver to score a point this season. So now on to the Nations Cup. America on 322 points, well clear of Britain in second place, Australia in third, then Norway on just the 1 point, and Holland and Portugal yet to get off the mark. And then in the Constructors' Championship, Nestle now 50 points clear ahead of Chrysos, with Confox, the rebranded BMW Monster Racing, there in fourth on 83, then Ferrari, Duke Racing, Red Bull, Newcomers, Gusto Racing and Galaxy Motorsport. That's not the same Galaxy Motorsport that led the championship due to a naming issue. They are now Galaxy Motorsport, and the old Galaxy Motorsport are now Nestle. So now we'll move on to the F1 race. Matthew Alder set the record for the most consecutive pole positions. He now has 6 consecutive poles, took the record from Cameron West Edwards, and he led into turn 1 from rival Sebastian Gonçalves, those who have had some brilliant battles this year. But one of the stories of the race was TJ McLean had an absolutely dismal affair. Contact on the opening lap ensured he had to pit for front wing damage, and then this move, an attempted move around the outside of Louis Quinlan, very daring, side by side into the S's, but evidently just misjudged the gap between the two cars, turned into Quinlan and span, losing his front wing. And then this incident with Jorge Correa, which the stewards deemed to be absolutely ridiculous, and as a result, TJ McLean has got a quali ban for the next race in Australia. So now, as you can see, the rain started to fall on lap 13, but only very light rain ensured it wasn't intermediates weather, and those that did try to come onto winters found themselves spinning very often. Very difficult conditions, the rain coming down, light but still affected grip. Matthew Alder and Sebastian Gonçalves still, though, in a world of their own. They had a brilliant battle throughout the race, swapping the lead 4 or 5 times, as they often do. They've had battles in the past, in Malaysia, for example, being one of those tracks. However, they both praised each other in the interview after the race, which unfortunately couldn't be heard due to technical issues. They both praised each other for the clean race. They finished 1-2 ahead of Felix Negre in third, who decided not to turn up to the podium. Felix Negre finished third ahead of Brandon Glover in fourth. Cameron West Edwards climbed back up to fifth after a last lap overtake on Michael Amadoro, who finished his season best 6. And as we look at the Drivers' Championship, Felix Negre has now a 22.5 point lead over Matthew Alder with 3 races to go. Cam West Edwards and Brandon Glover in third and fourth, and then a big gap to Stefan Prodnov, who's out till mid-June. Lewis Marshall in sixth, Sebastian Gonçalves up to seventh, and Smith McGinn, Quinlan, Sorhaug 6-2, Jorge Correa in 13th, ahead of TJ McLean in 14th in the championship. TJ McLean, who obviously has a qualifying for next week in Australia. Looking at the relegation battle, still pretty tight at the bottom. Everything down from 16th, Lewis Bish on 22, 1 point ahead of James Hallworth on 21. Michael Amadoro climbs out of relegation. Reece Bibby also climbs off 20th to 19th. Kieran Evans drops down to 20th, only 1 point ahead of Gabriel Ryan. Those two both battling out for the relegation in the Nations Cup. England won that a long time ago. They are well clear of Germany in second. Australia climbing up to third ahead of Scotland, Scandinavia, Macedonia, Netherlands, also with a late resurgence there ahead of Hungary, Portugal and Ireland. And now on to the Constructors' Championship. Sauber well clear, 35.5 points ahead of Renault, with those two seems to be fighting out with Mercedes beginning to lag back. Haas fourth, Ferrari with a late run up to fifth. They could be getting third by the end of the season. Toro Rosso sixth, and then Red Bull. So next week we will still be in Suzuka, but it will be for the GT Sport Race. The penultimate round of the season will be at the Suzuka circuit, and the Formula 1 race with just 3 rounds to go in that will be held at the Australian track at the Albert Park Street circuit, so be sure to see us then.